this has ever happened. Ever.
You've never killed anyone else.
No, sir.
This is the first person you've ever killed.
Nothing like this has ever happened before.
Paradise, Texas, is a rural town in Wise County, about 40 miles northwest of Fort Worth. On November 30th, 2022, the sun set at 5:23 p.m. The temperature was 48 degrees and was dropping. At a home on County Road 4571, 7-year-old Athena Strand was playing. Her father was away on a hunting trip. She was at the house with her stepmother. At approximately 5:40 p.m., a minor argument occurred. It was a standard domestic moment. Athena walked out of the room. She was wearing a gray long-sleeve shirt with blue jeans. At the same time, a FedEx ground delivery truck, operated by a contractor for big topspin, entered the driveway. The driver was 31-year-old Tanner Lynn Horner. He was there to deliver a box containing a "You Can Do Anything" Barbie. At 6:15 p.m., the stepmother went to check on Athena. She wasn't in her room and she wasn't in the immediate yard. For the next 25 minutes, the family searched the property. In rural Texas, the immediate fear is the terrain, dense brush, coyotes, and the freezing temperature. At 6:40 p.m., the first call was placed to 911. The report was a missing child. Within the hour, the Wise County Sheriff's Office arrived. They treated it as a search and rescue. Because Athena had no history of running away and was not dressed for the cold, the urgency was immediate. By 9 p.m., the search had scaled significantly. Over 200 volunteers joined local law enforcement, Texas Rangers, and the FBI. Drones with thermal imaging flew over the 200-acre property. K-9 units were brought in to catch a scent. Investigators began a standard neighborhood canvass. In a rural area, neighbors are often half a mile away. They checked every resident on the county road. They asked for security footage. Then something happened. One neighbor's camera captured a detail that would narrow the investigation: the FedEx truck. The footage showed the truck entering the dead-end road at 5:40 p.m. and leaving a short time later. Federal investigators contacted FedEx Ground. They identified the truck and the driver. Horner was a contract driver, not a direct FedEx employee. This distinction would later become the center of a massive civil lawsuit. On December 1st, as the search for Athena entered its second day, the FBI and Texas Rangers interviewed Tanner Horner. At this point, he was not a suspect, he was a witness. He confirmed he was at the house. He claimed he didn't see the girl. He said he delivered the package and left. However, the investigation moved to the truck itself. Modern delivery vehicles are equipped with GPS tracking and internal monitoring systems. The data from Horner's truck showed he stayed at the Strand residence longer than a typical delivery. It also showed he made several stops in unusual locations after leaving the property. On December 2nd, investigators brought Horner in for a second interview. They presented him with the GPS data. His story began to shift. Horner told investigators that while he was backing out of the Strand driveway, he accidentally struck Athena with the van. He claimed she wasn't seriously injured and was able to talk to him. He told police he panicked. His statement to the Texas Rangers was specific. He said he put Athena in the back of the van. He claimed he was afraid she would tell her father what happened and that he would get in trouble with FedEx. While he was driving his route, Athena remained in the cargo hold of the truck. Horner admitted that he attempted to break her neck to shut her up. When that didn't work, he strangled her with his bare hands. During the confession, he provided a location. He told police he had dumped the body in the Trinity River, near the town of Boyd, about 10 miles from the kidnapping site. At 6 p.m. on Friday, December 2nd, authorities recovered the body of Athena Strand from the water. Sheriff Lane Akin held a press conference that night. He was visibly shaken. He confirmed that a FedEx driver was in custody and that Athena was dead. The missing person case was now a capital murder investigation. Athena Presley Monroe Strand was born on May 23, 2015. To her mother, Maitland Gandy, she was more than just a daughter. She was a vibrant, spunky child who lived life in bright colors. Athena grew up in a family that split time between Oklahoma and Texas, a common arrangement for many families in the South, but one that required a lot of coordination and love. Athena was known for her obsession with Spirit, the animated horse from the Netflix series. She had the toys, the shirts, and the spirit of the character. Independent and energetic. Her family described her as a girly girl who wasn't afraid to get her boots dirty. She was a student at Cottonwood Elementary in Moore, Oklahoma, where she was known for being a friend to everyone in her class. Her family was tight-knit. Her mother, Maitland, often shared photos of Athena's gap-toothed smile and her love for her younger sister. In November 2022, Athena had traveled to Paradise, Texas, to spend time with her father, Mark Strand, and her stepmother. It was supposed to be a normal holiday visit. But to understand why this case hit the heart of Texas so hard, you have to understand the family's dynamic. They were people who trusted their community. They lived on a large rural property where kids were encouraged to play outside and be free. On November 30th, Athena was doing exactly that. She was just being a kid, waiting for the Christmas season to truly begin, unaware that a package being delivered for her would be the catalyst for the end of her life. Athena's father, Mark Strand, worked hard to provide a life for his daughters in the rural stretches of Wise County. Their house on County Road was meant to be a sanctuary. On the day Athena vanished, Mark was actually away on a hunting trip, a detail that has often been scrutinized but was simply a part of their rural lifestyle. The stepmother was at home with Athena. According to investigative reports, a minor argument had occurred between the two, the kind of trivial disagreement about chores or behavior that happens in every household. It was this argument that led Athena to walk out of the house to cool off. This made the family's reality changed in a matter of 20 minutes. By the time Mark Strand was racing back home and the 911 calls were placed, the family was already living through every parent's worst nightmare. When Horner was caught, his defense team tried to use his neurological makeup to explain his actions. They pointed to a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. They argued that Horner's brain didn't process the accident correctly, that he went into a state of autistic meltdown or panic that prevented him from making a rational decision. However, the prosecution dismantled this theory piece by piece. They showed that Horner was highly functional. He was capable of holding a job, navigating complex delivery routes, and performing in a band. More importantly, they showed his capacity for deception. Horner didn't just panic. He made a series of deliberate, cold-blooded choices. He told investigators that he was afraid of Athena. Think about that. A 31-year-old man claimed to be afraid of a 7-year-old girl who weighed 65 pounds. He claimed he feared she would tell her father that he had hit her with the truck. But forensics showed there was no hit. He didn't hit her. He took her. The accident, was a lie he concocted to try and justify why he had a child in his van. During his time in jail, Horner showed a complete lack of remorse. He wrote letters attempting to manipulate detectives, even inventing a story about being forced to kill Athena by a mystery gunman who held him at gunpoint. This wasn't the behavior of a confused man with autism. It was the behavior of a sociopath attempting to escape the death penalty. He viewed Athena not as a human being, but as a problem that needed to be erased to save his own skin. The spotlight eventually turned to the man in the FedEx truck, Tanner Lynn Horner. Born in 1991, Horner grew up in the North Texas area. To his co-workers and neighbors, he was just a guy. He was a musician who played in local bands and lived a seemingly unremarkable life in Lake Worth. But after his arrest, the layers of his normal life began to peel back, revealing a history that should have been a red flag for any employer. During the sentencing phase in 2026, the public finally learned the truth about Horner's history. He wasn't a man who snapped. He was a man with a track record. In 2013 and 2014, when Horner was in his early 20s, multiple young women had encounters with him that they described as predatory. Testimonies revealed that Horner had a pattern of targeting younger, vulnerable women. One woman testified that Horner had sexually assaulted her while she was incapacitated by alcohol. Another stated he had assaulted her in her sleep. Why wasn't he in prison? None of these women had felt safe enough to come forward at the time. Horner had managed to stay under the radar of the criminal justice system because his victims were silenced by fear or shame. Even more disturbing was the testimony from Horner's own family. A cousin came forward in 2026 to testify that Horner had sexually abused him as well. This painted a picture of a man who had been a danger to children and young women for over a decade. He was a predator hiding in plain sight, working a job that gave him unfettered access to private homes and unsuspecting families. The most powerful voice in this entire tragedy has been Athena's mother, Maitland Gandy. Since the day her daughter vanished, Maitland has refused to let the focus shift away from Athena. At a press conference shortly after the body was found, Maitland stood before the cameras and held up the package that Athena never got to open, the "You Can Do Anything Barbie." She spoke about how Athena was robbed of the chance to grow up, to be a mother, to have a career, and to experience life. Maitland's grief turned into a fierce advocacy. She has been the driving force behind Athena's law. She has stood in courtrooms and looked Tanner Horner in the eye, refusing to let him see her as a victim. She has called out the independent contractor system that allowed a man with Horner's background to be on her daughter's property. In the 2026 sentencing, Maitland's victim impact statement was the defining moment of the trial.
I want people to know that she's not just some story. She's not just some number. She's not just some picture you see in a headline. She was loved. She is loved. And she is missed. And she was real. And she had a life. And she wanted to live. And no one can take that from her.
She spoke not just of her loss, but of the holes left in the lives of everyone who knew Athena. She described the spirit horse toys that still sit in Athena's room and the Christmas presents that will never be opened. Her strength has ensured that Athena is remembered as a person, not just a headline. The story of Athena Strand is a tragedy of missed signals and predatory behavior. It's a story of a family that did everything right, and a system that failed to protect them from a man who had been a danger for years. In May 2026, the state of Texas finally closed the book on the legal proceedings. Tanner Horner was sentenced to death. For the community of Paradise and the city of Moore, the healing is slow. Athena Presley Monroe Strand is gone, but her name is now synonymous with change. Because of her, the Amber Alert system in Texas is faster. Because of her, there is a spotlight on the safety of home deliveries. She was a little girl who loved pink horses and her family. She was 7 years old. And while her life was cut short by a man who should never have been there, her legacy is one of a family that fought for the truth and a mother who made sure the whole world knew her daughter's name.